What's your handicap?
6 right now.
6.
High. Yeah.
You think that's high?
6.6, actually. Yeah, I suck.
Gosh,
I haven't been able to practice
6.6.
much with working so much.
I wish I was 6.6. I think the last time I had to check that was 18. If I
When I saw you
kept
hitting
my
balls
three
last
scores.
time in the range, you were
I was hitting the ball well.
you're hitting good. I saw
hitting the
that.
ball well, but the problem is I can't hit my driver.
Really?
My driver goes 300 yards right or 300 yards left.
I bet you I could get you set in 5 minutes.
You think so?
I'm absolutely not. I don't think so. I know so.
All right, then we're gonna go
How's
out
that
and play
for?
together.
Okay, you call me. Let's go.
All right.
We'll get out there.
like
So,
it.
yeah, 5 minutes.
Writing that down.
I just told a
5
guy the other
minutes,
day. I
yeah.
said, I had 30 yards to your drive. I was playing with a guy he's a Hall of Famer down in Philadelphia. We were playing last Friday at Cross Gates. He played like 15 holes, and he's roundhousing it and hooding it. And I said, okay, next hole, I said, I'm going to add 30 yards to your drive. And he went, really? I said, yeah, really. So I said, you hit your first drive. He hooded it down the fairway, maybe 150, 160 yards. So I said, now I'm going to open up your stance a little bit, put you off your heel, move you back this way. I said, now hit this next drive. 35 yards. Passed.
That's crazy. I like that. That's coach. It's the
Well, no,
coaching.
I look at swings. I've always studied swings a lot. So I bet you I could get you on target in 5 minutes.
All right.
Talking small town developer today with John Inch of Inch and Co. And we're sitting here kind of gabbing a little bit. And John's a sports guy, like I am. I've been in coaching for 45 years. I think since late the 1800s. And John's been playing sports for a while. But I hear people talk all the time about being a player or being a playa, as people will say sometimes. And, I was thinking about it today as it relates to what you do with real estate. But, before we get to real estate, you're a basketball player. You've been on the street. You've gone out and played games down at the courts. Becoming known as a player, how do you do that in us guys' world here in terms of basketball, in terms of sports? How do you become known as a player?
I think to get into a player, you have to get in the game, and to get into the game means you got to take a risk and you got to put in the effort. I don't know too many people that I see in society today want to be players and they want to be in the game. They never want to practice. They never even want to step on the court. They want to wear Jordans and they want to dress nice and they want to say they're a player and they're in the game. You're not doing shit if you're standing on the sidelines with nice shoes and a nice suit on, but you've never been in the game. And being in the game, as you know, being a player means you get bloody.
Yep.
You get punched in the face sometimes. You get shoved. You get pushed around. And you got to fight back. And I think to be a player in today's world, it's even harder and harder because there is so many fakes out there. And there's so many people that say they're players, but when you put them in the game, you put their back up against the wall, they're not coming back swinging. They're stepping off the court.
Sometimes you don't get in the game. Sometimes you don't get picked. That's the worst part. I can only imagine what you're like if you didn't get picked in the game. But when you played basketball, if you describe, how you got in the game and what made you effective getting into a game as part of your team?
Well, I think the biggest thing that if you ask all my coaches, they'll say Johnny was the hardest worker on defense. On offense, the same. But on defense is really hard work. And when you're playing defense, all you're doing is running fast, moving side to side, jumping, getting back on defense, getting back on fast breaks. It's pure effort to play defense. Anybody can play defense. I mean, honestly, anybody. If you're athletic, a little bit athletic, you can play defense. Playing defense is the hardest thing to find. And if you ask any players on any team, if you ask any coaches, what do they want? They want to see someone who's a dog on defense, who you can't get by, who will never stop, who's relentless, who will never, ever give up. The fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go, they just don't get tired. And that's how I was. And you ask my coaches, I never got tired. Fourth quarter, I'd be pissed if they were pulling me out. One
of the things that I always thought about as a coach was, and I tell my players, who's the guy you don't want to play tonight on defense? And it'd be the guy that's like dogging you everywhere, the guy that doesn't let you go anywhere. You go out the bathroom, he's with you, that kind of thing. And I said, who's the player you don't want to be playing against on offense? Well, that's the person that's moving everywhere, setting screens, shaping up, shooting the ball. So I always said, be the opposite of what you don't want to have to play against tonight. You want to be that guy. So John Inch now is part of my team, and he goes out there and he says, "Oh, okay, what do I do now to be an offensive player when it comes to real estate? How do I get out there and be the defensive player when it comes to real estate? What are the things that you're doing that other people don't do For example, I always believe that you go out there, do the things that other people don't do. You're doing things that other people aren't doing, and yet they want to be a player on your stage with real estate. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think the biggest thing that people forget about is to do what we do takes a long, long time and a lot of effort. And what we do, which is different than everyone else, is we reinvest every single penny that we have back into the business. To get where we're at, you got to build a balance sheet. And to build a balance sheet takes years and years of time, takes good decisions, hard effort, and a long, long time. And when people try to say, hey, I want to be on the same playing field that you are, they want to be on the same team that you are, on the same level that you are, you got to build a balance sheet. And building a balance sheet is having your assets, cash, having a lot of things behind you that you've done in the past that are positive. And to do that means that you've got to reinvest. If you're starting from zero like we are, and like we have, you got to reinvest and reinvest and reinvest. And to build a balance sheet takes years and years of time. So 15 years ago, when Jeff and I started into real estate heavily, we took everything that we made, every single bit of money, and we built a balance sheet. We would make $3-4 million off of one deal. We didn't take one single dollar and have fun with it. We didn't go on crazy vacations. We didn't go and buy crazy exotic cars. We didn't do anything. Things that we could have, cash. We didn't do one thing. We put it back into the business, back into real estate. And that's the only way to be able to get to a certain level is to build a balance sheet. Building a balance sheet is nothing but making good decisions financially and personally over a long period of time. Balance sheet, you just can't do it overnight. And what we're realizing as we go farther and farther into land development and these big communities is your balance sheet can't be $5 million. Your balance sheet can't be $10 million. If you're doing a project like we're doing, you got to have a balance sheet of over $100 million. That takes a long time. And it takes a lot of hard work and head down to your nose to the ground for years and years and years of time.
So a lot of people talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. What you're talking about right here is walking the walk and accumulating that over smart investing, reinvesting, and making sure that you're getting the game. A lot of other people haven't done that. A lot of people get the first taste and they run off and start to do other stuff, but they forget about the reinvesting. That's really a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what one of the people that I love to listen to, Warren Buffett, and as well as Charlie Munger. Now he has passed away, but one thing that Warren Buffett has always said is if you're crazy energetic and you have a lot of ambition, but you're a little shady, I'd rather have you dumb and stupid and slow. And one thing that Jeff and I have seen, and that it holds so true in business and especially in real estate, is that once you get a little taste of money, it shows you who you are. You get a little bit of money, the things that you buy, the places that you go, your personal habits that change, shape how you grow your balance sheet. And it either stifles your balance sheet or it accelerates your balance sheet, in our case, over years of time when making those good decisions. But we can tell you stories and stories of people here locally and people that are in, the whole Northeast area that have taken little hits of money, $500 hits, and it becomes like a drug to them. They get a couple $100,000 and they just go start making bad decisions, poor life decisions, and they forsake the balance sheet, what they're trying to build in order to get to that next level in financial ability in business, and they throw it away. Because the bank says, great, you got a Lambo and you got $200,000 worth of debt on it. Oh, you can sell it for $240,000. Great, you got $40,000 of positive balance sheet net worth. What is it going to do for you? Nothing. It ain't going to buy you another house. You can't even get a house. You can't even buy a $100,000 house with that on your balance sheet. So what we did instead of buying those things is we went and bought another piece of real estate. We bought another farm. We bought another project. We bought another real estate asset, and we've built them up over time. And once you accumulate all of that real estate, you've forsaken 10 years of big income to build your balance sheet. And now you can go out and do those things that you wanted to do 10 years ago, and you can do them cash.
So when you look at who you are now and who you were back then when you started, you were at zero, now you're not at zero, okay? And you're looking at the whole thing. How do you keep that discipline during that time? And, are you the same person now that you were then in terms of the characteristics, the qualities that you want to have? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think a lot of it goes into how you're raised, and then also, too, about where you want to be remembered for when you get older in life. And if you want to be remembered for someone that shot like a rocket and then came back to the ground crashing, your vision might be 3 to 5 years, and you're looking for that next high that makes you feel good, that makes everybody think that you're doing really, really well. And you might drive that new car, you might have that big house for a little while. If you want to look like that 100 years from now, and you want people to remember your name, you want people to remember your legacy, things that you've built, future generations that talk about, hey, great grandpa so-and-so took this risk, forsake this, all the crazy stories. If you want to have that been said about you 100 years from now, then you got to think differently. You got to act differently. And one thing that we've done is we've just changed our rhetoric from where are we going to be 5 years from now to where we're going to be 100 years from now. And if I can think of where I'm going to be 100 years from now, the things that I drive around today could take that away. If I want to live a lifestyle today that doesn't allow me 100 years from now, my family to say, future generations to say, look what they've built, look what they've built together, look what they've created. Every day, every decision I make today changes that outcome 100 years from now. Jeff and I, what we've done is we've taken all of the good things that we could have felt. And it's actually accountability back and forth. Jeff's the spender, I'm the saver. Like everybody knows that. Jeff loves to spend money, I love to save money. But there's times in our business that I've wanted to spend a ton of money on business adventures. And Jeff has said, no, it's terrible. We argue for a while. That yin and yang of wanting to go 100 miles an hour, the other one wants to go 10 miles an hour. And at different points in time, we change back and forth. So I think accountability, whether that's a business coach, a personal coach, or a family member that wants to go the same speed you are, not a family member that wants to hold you back. There's too many people like that out there. But to get to where we were at, to where we're at now, to where we want to be, we're not even close to where we want to be yet. We've got another 30 to 40 years of solid growth to get to where I can say and Jeff can say, I think we're happy with where we're at.
So look at 100 years from now. Let's just look out in the future. What do you want people to say about what you did? What are the characteristics of things that you want people to say? And what are the things that you have in mind that are going to get you to that name that you want people to respect 100 years from now?
Well, it's first to get to that point, we got to forget about all the haters and forget about all the people that are out there talking shit in society, on Facebook and Instagram and social media, just blasting people. You got to forget about them. That's number one. If you want to get somewhere where you have a 100-year vision and you have people that look back and say, they were great. What they did changed our era, changed our life. It gave me a job, gave me a career, gave my kids a career. It gave me generational wealth that I could pass down, not for my family, the families that work with us that we're able to bless. And the only way you can do that is to forget about all the people that are never going to take you there. Everybody that's out there talking about where you're going, you're growing too big, you're growing too fast, you're buying too much, you're doing too much. All of those people will take you away from where I'm trying to get to. To do that takes a callus on your mind and in your status. You have to lose yourself. And the biggest differentiator over the last 10 years that has allowed us to go from here to here is getting over myself.
One of the things that I've heard is how do you discern between the haters and the people that are saying things you really don't want to hear, and then the people that say things maybe you really don't want to hear, but maybe they're good things to hear. You pick out the people who are, okay, I got a list of that guy. I'm not doing what he's doing, but he's got some good things to say. Where do you find that happy medium there when you're listening to people? You say, bunch of garbage. Over here, pretty valuable stuff.
Yeah, well, when I get into we get into debates and we have people that come out after us and they'll say, what are you doing, why you're doing it? They're judging your intentions. They don't really know you. I don't take any criticism from anybody that doesn't truly know us. So there's haters out there and people that are saying things. Unless they get to truly know us, I have zero care for anything they say. People that get to know us and they get around us, and we have some large investors, we have some friends that were partners with us that became really close friends. I listen to them. People that have went before us, done more than us, super more successful than we are. When they start talking, I sit down and listen, and I take notes, and I'll readjust. The problem with today's world then that is in that older money that was created 40 years ago. Social media has changed all of that. There's people that are out there that know nothing about any of the subjects that they're talking about, but are making more money than people that have the money today, that have wealth, huge wealth. They're making less than the people that are 25 years old that know how to use social media to their advantage. They're making more. And it's hard to get the people that have old money to understand how new money is being created. The old money is still being created the same as the way as it was, but there's a whole universe of new money that's out there that is taking over kind of the social media world, that's shaping our minds. You don't see it now, you're going to see it 10 years from now. You're going to see how culture is being shaped by social media, and you're going to see that people that look like they're doing well will actually do really well because it created this whole persona about them.
Give me a list of the 3 or 4 things that you would say about yourself that have helped to make you successful?
I pray every day.
Okay.
Which is probably shocking.
Pretty good start. Yeah.
That's
I don't think it's a shock. No, I think that's pretty cool.
And when I pray every day, I don't pray for things to be great. I pray for God basically to allow me to bless everybody else.
Okay.
And that's one thing that I think that if someone got to know me, they would see that intently, is that I care about other people more than I care about myself. And it doesn't appear that way sometimes when you look at our name and you see us everywhere. And when you don't know us, you get the feel of, man, they just want to be known. They want to be everywhere. But I pray that God uses me to be able to bless everybody around me, my family, my friends, my coworkers, my teammates, my partners, my investors. And I truly, truly believe God put me on this world to bless and benefit other people.
Good start.
I honestly think so.
Okay, so that's a pretty good foundation to build. So what else do you want to be known for? What else do you think are the things that you're really strong at?
I think the other thing is being a leader. And when I say being a leader, I see over and over and over again people that post and that share comments on leadership. It is not in comments, it's not in posts, it's not even in books. Leadership is your internal being and who you are and how you come across to other people. How you lead, you have to be able to be a leader first, and you have to know yourself first. One thing that I feel like I'm strong in is when I go through bad times, and we've went through bad times, we go through heavy growth spurts. I'm steady in the storm. And when there's storms and there's bad things that happen in our businesses and our projects, and there's bad things that happen, I don't fluctuate, I don't change, I don't get higher, I don't get low, I don't get rah-rah, and it sometimes takes me a little away from people are like, aren't you happy? You just did this, you just accomplished that, you just did that, aren't you happy? I said, yeah, I'm really happy. Internally, I'm super fired up and super happy. But externally, I just try to ride the waves and try to get, the highs, I keep high, but I don't get too high. The lows, I keep low. But having that leadership ability to remain calm and remain very, very deeply focused when things go bad or when there's issues in the business, I think is one of my superpowers.
Kind of reminds me in sports, I used to tell my players a lot, and you probably heard it told by your coach to you, or maybe you've told it to others because you do some coaching too, is act like you've been there before. You don't act like it's the first time you've ever seen it. When you act like you've been there before, people look at you and go, ooh, I got to listen to that person. That person's doing pretty well. What do you think about that?
That's one of the couple of things that I took from one of the billionaire investors that did a lot of real estate construction in this area. And the guy that we refer to a lot, the Kinsley family. One thing that he told Jeff and I is the fake it till you make it. And that term's what you're alluding to. Mm-hmm. That fake it till you make it is something that Bob said he used a lot over his time, especially when you're getting started.
Right.
You're not that person, but you got to become that person, or you got to look like the person that's already been there. Even though they might not get there for 20 years, they got to look like the person that's already been there. And that's tough to do because the people who are super smart, the lenders, the attorneys, the investors, those people are smart. They're trained in that. They've been through this cycle. They know people who are shooting rockets that are going to fall to the ground. And they're good at reading people that I can invest in this guy and I think he's going to go somewhere. So if you fake it, then you better have a little bit of ass behind you to be able to get through the times that you're not going to be faking it and it's going to suck, but you got to look like you're good.
So you're praying every day. You're staying steady in a storm. What else is the quality that you think is a pretty strong move about you in terms of Hinch & Co.?
The reason that I'm speaking here today, the reason that I want to get in front of the camera more is that Kobe Bryant had said something that stuck in my mind forever. And he said that the only way to get to be excellent or great or one of the GOATs that were well known is you have to get over yourself. And I internally had so many things the last 15, 20 years that I told myself, internal talkings, that you're not good enough. It wasn't for you. Are you really that great? Do you really know what you're doing? Getting past that and just said, you know what, maybe I don't, but I'm over myself. Like, I might not look the way I want to look. I might not talk the way, I might not have the voice that draws you in, but I think we're doing pretty well. And I think we can help change a lot of people's lives. And doing that, I want to get out there and I want to meet more people. And I want to get in front of the camera. And I want people to know that where we're at is not where we want to be, but I'm proud of where we're at. And I'm super, super humbled for where we've taken, the road that we've taken and where we've become. Let
me ask you a question. Who are the people that annoy you in your business? Competitors or even other people out there. What type, I'm not asking about the name, but what type of person just annoys the heck out of you where you say, man, I got to spend 5 more minutes with that person. It's going to drive me nuts. Tell me about that.
The fakes.
Yeah. Who are the fakes? Define fake.
I can't stand the fake people.
Yeah.
I can't stand the fake. The fake people are people that tell you things to your face and they walk away from you and they never do one single thing they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
Or the fakes that post all the time, that are on social media, that never, ever, ever put the work in. You drive by their office, they're never there. You drive by their house, they're always there. You drive by their work site, you drive by their job, you drive by their businesses, they're never there. But they constantly talk about being there. Same thing with employees. You have employees that talk a good talk, and it's been our history. Jeff and I have hired and fired over 2,000 people. You start figuring out that person who talks a lot is the person usually that's not doing anything. And the fakes are the people that drive me nuts, that come to you, tell you things, talk to you, but in behind, in the back of the scenes, they're not doing shit. They're not working, they're not pushing, they're not trying. And what I love, and just as of this came up yesterday, someone reached out to me on social media, and they have a business that's growing pretty successful here in central Pennsylvania. And they had a couple bad things happen to them recently. Not majorly bad, just like they feel the pressure of what social media does to a business right now. And that's the reason why a lot of the people that are in their 50s and 60s and 70s that were like, no social media, are realizing where, shit, we got to get on the bandwagon now because social media is going to dominate our business. You have a business that maybe you have a company that is so far off the radar. You're on social media, you don't have a page. You get on, you start doing business and somebody starts blowing you up. Somebody starts saying, you did so-and-so. Your truck ran into my grandma and now it gave her an injury. All of a sudden, they could destroy your business and could take away gigantic market share from your business in 2 weeks. 2 weeks of time period, just destroying you. And the newspapers want to gather it. So understanding that being in business and having social media part of it and being who you say you are and what you say you're going to do and not being a fake is ultra important in today's world.
You know, the other thing too, you talked about working earlier. I remember an old basketball coach named Abe Lemons, and he coached Oklahoma City. And he used to say, the guy that's got the low handicap in the golf course in the summer is the guy I want to play in the winter because he's spending more time on the golf course than he's spending at his business. How does that translate over to what you do with the real estate business?
Well, in the real estate business, you can tell who the fakes are and who not the fakes are. You can tell by the cars they drive, the places they go, the work ethic that you see them doing. And just like you mentioned right there, the person that you see on the golf course all the time or that you see that's not doing anything, you see them around town constantly, or the person that you have zero to worry about. Those people, they talk a lot, they come in and out of your life, and they really never do anything in the world. The people that I see that are dusty, they're dirty, they're walking out of their office 7:30 at night. I see them downtown York walking from their offices. They have their suit and tie on. They might be an attorney. They might be an engineer. They might be an architect. They might be a healthcare worker. When I see those people, they're the people that you worry about because they've got the ass behind them that when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do something. One thing that's been frequently talked about Jeff and I, like when we say we're going to do something, whether it happens this year, next year, or 5 years from now, we're going to do it. And that's a quality and that's an internal fortitude that most people don't have. People talk a lot and people do very little. When I see people in, Carolinas that we're in now, in Ohio, and I meet people constantly, and I hear them talk, and then I follow them on social media, and then I meet them again, and I see where they're at a year from now, and they're still in the same place. If you talk to me a year from now, I'm like a totally different person. You don't even know who I am because we've done this, and we've done that, and we built this, and we sold that, and we bought this, and we've done that. And that's something that is a quality of people that are movers and shakers and getting things done. They just never quit.
One of the things that stands out, and I remember a statement someone once said, go big or go home. And you hear a lot of people say that, and they say it. Not a lot of people do that. You've done that. You say, go big or go home. That's an attitude. That's something that you got to be thinking about all the time. Talk about that concept a little bit about go big or go home, because that's kind of what you're saying right here. Don't talk to me about going big. Go do the work. Tell me a little bit about that from your vantage point.
Yeah, if you don't feel like you're back against the wall and you have to swing, that you're taking short breaths and your breathing changes and you're not feeling that you're feeling right and your head's about to explode and the pressure comes over you that sometimes you feel like you should break down crying or you should go to a therapist. If you're not in those situations, you're never swinging big. Like you're not swinging against the wall. You're not swinging. If you don't feel like that, then you're not swinging big. There's been so many times over the last 15, 20 years, even back to working with my dad 25 years ago, I felt like I couldn't breathe every single day. I felt like I didn't want to wake up that next morning because I knew the mountain was so high and the workload was so heavy. And I knew that I couldn't even see the end. Couldn't see 2 years in. I couldn't see 3 years in. I knew lines of credit were at millions of dollars. I knew that there was projects that were behind. I knew that there was payables that were behind. And when you get into those mountains where you just can't feel like you can breathe, it's when you're swinging big enough. And some people make it out of that and some people don't. The people that never give up make it out of it. The people that bow out early, that don't have that work ethic, that don't have the good internal fortitude or the good morals and good work ethics, they die.
Let's roll back to the business that you're in and take that attitude. A lot of people say, okay, I want to do a project. I want to do a big project, okay? Now, you got a couple different ways you can go about doing this. You can take it on yourself. You can self-finance it. Or you can go out there and somehow, you talked about building the balance sheet earlier, you can go with larger scale investments. You've chosen to go with the larger scale investments. It's a lot more complicated. It's a lot tougher. And yet at the same time, it's the way you've decided to go. Talk about going big or going home there as it applies to that kind of thing in your business.
Well, there's a couple of different areas in real estate that you can grow in. You don't have to go and do what we're doing and go into large scale development, right. Huge projects. You can also buy a house one at a time. You can buy a condo. You can invest in real estate. And the problem is people want to go to the very end in 1 year. Jeff and I took over 15 years of buying small properties, buying a little single family home, buying a little townhome in the city for $40,000, running that, refinancing that, working with banks, working with attorneys, working with engineers, getting sued by people, getting sued by contractors, going through development issues in a small scale to get to that big scale. It's just on that road and on your journey in real estate, where do you want to jump off? Do you want to jump off after you have an exit and you build up to 50 properties that you own, and then 20 years from now you sell those properties, you get a couple $1 million and you were successful? Or do you want to keep going down that line? And what's the highest level? The highest level is private equity, where you own all of the real estate, you control all the money, you dictate to the construction companies and the developers what you're willing to give, what you're willing to receive. And that's the highest level. And there's a road. You're either here on the entry level where you're buying single family homes and you're buying townhomes, and you work your way up to doing a little larger scale, 4 unit, a 6 unit, a 10 unit. And then you get up to large scale development where we are, where you're doing $100 million projects. Then you have private equity that sits a little bit above that because they hold all the cash. They're raising funds. They own all of the real estate at a high level, at the very top. And when you're at the very top in the private equity funds, they're the ones that kind of control the terms of the deal, dictate the terms of the deal. And everyone below them on the pecking chain has a little less negotiation power. When you go down to buying single family homes and you're in that part of the business, you're doing one at a time and it's all on you. And you can play in that world and you can just stay in that world forever. But if you want to go and continue climbing that chain and get up to you're a large scale developer, you got to take a lot heavier risk a lot earlier in your life. And that's usually when people jump off that train and they say, hey, I'm fine owning 10 rental properties. I don't want to go to owning 5,000 rental properties.
When you jump to that higher scale developer, it seems to me that there's a lot more opportunity for no's along the way. There's a lot more opportunity for being sued along the way. There's a lot more opportunity for a whole lot of things that have to come together. How do you deal with all that? I mean, what's your mentality in terms of saying, okay, I might get sued here. I got to deal with that. I might get a no here from an investor. How do I deal with that? How do I come back with alternative arguments? How do I come up with alternative funding? I mean, you could sit down at that other lower level and be really happy, but on this one, you got a lot of balls in play right now. I think of the guy with the pie plates, and they're all spinning at the same time. You're trying to keep them all going. How do you do that?
The only way you can do anything we do is by building a team.
Yeah.
You go back to your coaching analysis. Jeff and I have blinders. We have blind spots, like everybody does in the world. And if you don't identify those blind spots and you keep putting players on your team that are like you, you're never going to get to the level.
Nope.
You're never going to get to that next level of growth in real estate and development unless you have a team. And when I look at teams across the United States and I see these real estate teams, people who have 50 people underneath them that look just like them never really go anywhere. Nope. They maintain to a certain level. In order to go from here to here, you got to have a team of people that are not like you at all. And you need ass kickers, people that are willing to just go in there and cause controversy and get people moving and fire up people and look over their backs. You got to have like Labrador retrievers that are willing to go in there and want to be team leaders and team growth and want to be able to help grow the team, help get people on board, help hire and fire, all those things. You also got to have people that are long-term view, that take a long-term view, 100-year vision. That's where I fall into, where I say, where are we going 100 years from now? And that dictates how we're growing the business. You also have to have finance people that understand how finances work. Probably the most important thing in scaling a business is understanding where you're at and where your cash is burning. Having all of those people play in the same orchestra is where the magic is. The magic is building the orchestra. And you know, when one bad instrument in orchestra goes out of tune, the whole orchestra just gets blown up. And everybody hears it and everybody kind of chuckles in the crowd. That's what it looks like in business. When you have one bad player on your team or two bad players on your team and they're not playing to the same rhythm that you're playing in your band, you can see it. They make you look bad. They make your team angry. You lose good people. And in order to go from a $5 million company to a $500 million company, you have to play in the orchestra that works the best for you, and you have to find the right people to play in that band.
You know, when you go to get those people, though, what's fascinating to me is you now get a certain quality. You know when you have a certain level of people. You said you fired over 2,000 people, hired over 2,000 people. But once you get that team, number one, you don't want them to get stale. But number two, it seems to me you want to get them to have ownership. How do you, as a leader, get them to have ownership in Inch & Co.'s name when you go out to do a project, a $400 million project you get involved in? All these people now have to work in concert. How do you get them to have that sense of ownership to go along with the talents that they have?
Well, when somebody asks me that question and they say, well, how do you build the team that we build? The easiest thing to do is to tell you a whole bunch of fluffy things that we have culture and you do great things, which we do, but you got to pay people. Like, people have to know that they're compensated well to do the work that they're doing. And nobody's working for free. How do you pay those people? Then you got to take profits that you're making and reinvesting them back into the company in order to cover payroll, in order to highly compensate people that are doing a great job. So to build a team, a lot of people talk about culture and feeling wanted and feeling needed in that. That's all very, very, very true. And we're doing the same thing every single day. We're building the culture. But people got to make money. So you have to have income. For us, we've been able to pull people along the way and be able to get them to fight for us and do like we do because we're living out the culture that we're telling them that we want them to live out. We're fighting for each other. We're staying late nights in the office. We're early mornings. We're showing up for, their child's graduation. We're with them in the trenches when things are going bad, and we're spending 4 hours trying to figure out how we can self-correct this problem in the business. We're here and we're present. Every single team member that we have in building the culture we have knows that. They take care of their mind. They take care of their body. They take care of their family. They take care of their self first. They understand that they got to come here committed to knowing that some days might be great and some days might suck. The sucky days, we don't throw in a towel. We don't come down on each other. We hold each other accountable and we grow. To build a team like that, you also have to have the financial part, but you also have to have the culture, and both of them can't be separate. You can't say, well, I have a culture, but I can't pay you. Well, then you're not going to get high talent. And in order to have high talent you got to take profits that you're making that could feel good 15 years ago that we've forsaken, and you got to take those profits, roll them into today, and say, I'm going to pay you because I value you and I feel you're the perfect person for my team. If I told you that without giving you the salary, you'd feel good, but you'd leave in 6 months because you couldn't pay your bills, you couldn't reach your goals.
Right.
So you got to do them both. And that's a differentiator in business that we feel like that we've done over the last 15 to 20 years is like we've paid people what we feel like they're worth and maybe even a little more because we saw the upside in them.
When you walk upstairs here to this studio, you walk through a door downstairs, and right to the left of that door, there's a definition that says we have a meritocracy here. Meritocracy is what you just talked about. We want you to work hard, but we all, you basically you're looking at dreams, you're looking at achieving on merit. We look around the world today a lot of times where people get stuff, don't necessarily earn that. That would not be said about your particular company here, I'm pretty sure.
Well, we like to say we have a meritocracy. So everyone has a voice, but the best decision wins. So the loudest voice isn't always the right voice. And what we say in our company is you can have a voice, but let the best decision win. Because the problem is the people who might be a C player or a D player on your team might have the loudest voice. They might make you do something or make your business go a different direction you want to go. So in our business, we have a meritocracy. We want everyone to have a voice. We want everyone to be able to come to us with an idea. Doesn't mean the idea is going to be great, but we won't want to kill your idea before it gets into our system. We can at least evaluate that. And one thing that I've been focusing on over the last couple of months is letting those voices not be so loud at the beginning until they gain traction and actually grow. Because it's too far along that Jeff and I have said, hey, we want everybody to have this happy family, we want everybody to have this voice, and you get so many voices in that you can't get one good idea and take that to the end. So I'll give you an exact example of meritocracy and what we're doing now in one project. So we have a project, we have actually 3 of them right now that we're looking at that are close to college towns that could be student housing or they could be traditional market rate apartments. And as we're looking at that, my first thought on all these projects is, hey, we're not in student housing. Let's just focus on market rate, multifamily. And a couple of members of our team were saying, why aren't we open to, student housing? Why aren't we open to that? We're going to build in college towns between, Columbus, Ohio and State College and down in Carolinas. We have projects that are really close to these colleges. Why won't we do that? And I've been opposed to it. But as of today, I'm saying, well, why won't we go that? At least learn about it. So we have players on our team right now that are sitting down with operators in these large college towns that are doing student housing, gathering information, coming back to our team and saying, here's what I've learned. And that's a place where I've grown that years ago that I would have said, no, let's just stick to this. And now I'm like, come, bring it back. Do your homework, do your research. Don't come back to me and give you 4 ideas that you found on ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not giving you all the information. Look at people who are successful operators in those regions, sit down with them, and then bring it back to us, and maybe we can do something different. And that's where I think meritocracy in our company plays out the best, is that don't throw me a random whim. That's not meritocracy. Meritocracy is you've done your homework, you've studied it, and the word I like to use a lot is you're convicted. Once you're convicted that you're right, bring it to us. And when that idea turns out to be the best idea, let's run with it.
I remember coaching and saying to my point guards, I always said to my point guards, who were kind of the leaders of the team, I said, when you become my extension on the floor, we're going to have something special. When you are able to think like I think and see the vision that I see, we're going to have something special. How does John Inch do that? You get everybody to be your point guard and when they're working for you. How do you do that? You were just talking about people going out, obviously gathering information, bringing back ideas, making sure that they're studying up, they're really seeing it for themselves. But what other things do you do to make those people be the extension of John Inch out there in the workplace?
Well, I think to have an entrepreneurial mindset. Like, I love to dream, and I love to dream since I've been little. And allowing our team to dream and allow me to tell my dream and tell what I see. What we seen 15 years ago, what I would tell our team, is the reason why we're at today. Because I dreamt of it and I thought of it and I planned on it. And while I was working, not while I was sitting around at a coffee shop dreaming about where I want to be someday, while I was in the field, laying block, laying pavers, I was dreaming about where I want to be someday. And I was telling that dream to everybody around us, to everybody that worked for us. Here's where we're going to be one day. Here's where we're going to be one day. Here's where we're going to be one day. I can't say that sitting in a vehicle with a microphone up to my face telling me that I'm going to be there someday. We're going to be there someday. I'm doing that while I'm out creating communities, while I'm out building retaining walls, while I'm out planting trees, in our landscape company, while I'm out buying a piece of real estate, doing the job, I'm talking about that. They want to see action. And it's like the same thing about having faith in the Bible, having faith in God. Is that, the Bible verse, faith without works is dead. So you can have faith, but if you're not doing anything and you're sitting on your hands, it's dead. You can have faith in, Santa Claus. Santa Claus is not coming to deliver you gifts. You can have faith in Santa Claus, but Santa Claus isn't doing anything for you. If you want to have faith in someone or somebody, then you got to be putting the work in. People believe in people that are doing things. And the whole time that I was trying to get the point guards, in your analogy, to go out and play the game, is that I was working the game beside them and I was dreaming and I was explaining to them the vision of the future is one day we're going to be here. One day we're going to be here. One day we're going to be here. And I wasn't saying that in the tone of, hey, I'm sitting here telling you, go out and work. I want to be here. I was beside you in the trenches, dirty, coming home covered in mud, because I wanted them to see that even though I was dreaming and I knew we would be here someday, I will do what you do to get us there. I think that's a differentiator.
How much is doing a $400 million project like playing a game? I mean, you're a competitive person. You like to play. You still like to play sports. You're good at it. You're working on your driver, I understand, but that's a whole nother game. But we'll talk about that. But bottom line is, how much is it like a game? You're competitive by nature, and obviously that fits into any kind of business. But take it even beyond that. Is it like a game for you, or is it something far greater than that?
No, I think a lot of my competitive edge is because of the lack of sports opportunities that I had growing up. And I truly wanted to play in Division I basketball team. Truly. It was all I wanted to do growing up is I wanted to play basketball. I loved basketball. I played baseball and basketball. But basketball was my heart. Having that removed from my life when I was 15, 16 years old, knowing that I was going to be working in the landscape company and the construction company, not having a chance to go to college, I think is the reason why I'm so aggressively competitive in everything I do today. Because I feel like it's a way for me to show my competitive side in business. And when you're doing a $400 million project, you better know that you're going to lose some. You're going to get pushed some. You're going to feel some days like you just got the shit beat out of you. But coming back and showing that you have that competitive nature, that you're never going to stop, you're never going to lose. And the greatest thing about business that you've heard Tom Brady say a lot, which I love, is that in business, there's no clock. The crazy thing about sports is there's a clock and the game ends and then you're done and you got to wait for the next game. In business, the clock goes for 60, 70 years. You can choose how long that you want to stay in it and how long you want to be competitive and how long you don't want to be. And what I love is that I've been the last 20 years, I've turned that competitive clock on and I've turned the game on and I'm still playing the game.
Integrity. When you look at what you do and when you look at business in the United States today or around the world, integrity is really, really something you say, there's a lot of people that go out there and they don't really worry about that. How much do you worry about integrity in the business where you're dealing with other people and other people who are living in the same community you are?
Well, one thing that I will never bow down on is our personal intentions and our integrity that we have when we go out and doing a project and we're going out into the world and we're putting our company out there. Integrity is such a loose word. In today's world, especially the swim or the pond that we swim in,
right?
There is no integrity. Does not even matter. Somebody will cut your face off tomorrow if they can make a buck, or they can steal a project from you, or they can make your project not go as well. So it's hard to remain that high level. It's hard to keep that high level of integrity every single day in every place of business. But you have to, because if you can't look at yourself in the mirror 20 years from now and said, I built this because of my integrity, because of being honest and true and doing what I said I was going to do to our team, our investors, our partners. If I can't look at myself in the mirror 20 years from now and feel good about myself, what's life for? What's it about? And I feel like the people that I'm around that are in their 60s and 70s that don't have that same integrity level, they have a lot of regret in their life and they wish they would have done something differently. And furthermore, my own personal opinion is I think it fleshes out in their families. And I think you can see that in their families, in that when they don't have that personal integrity, their families usually show the cracks in that ship and that it flows out through their family.
So how do you fight with people who don't have that integrity? People that are trying to steal your business, or people that are trying to take a project away, or people that are trying to undercut you. Define integrity as in that kind of atmosphere, because that kind of atmosphere is kind of rough, the one you just described.
You got to run them over, full throttle, those people, because they have zero intentions of being good or doing well. And I could tell you a quick story about someone when I first started one of our large projects. And he actually pushed me to a corner. And at that point, I was in my early 20s. He pushed me into a corner in a building. And he said, this is my town. And we build here. If you ever want to be in this town, you're going to have to go through me. This was my project. This was my property. I had this first. You're never getting it. And this was a guy that was 30, 40 years older than me that took me in a building. I don't want to give the exact location because you know and people know. That did that to me. And I stood there super fuming inside, but respectful because I have a level of integrity and I have a level of respect for people that are older than me. And I just looked at him and I just stared at him. I did that project. I went around till I went through him. I pushed over him. He ended up leaving that company because of bad acts that he had made. And that time taught me that the people like him that try to get in your way and try to bulldog you, you got to run them over. If you don't run them over, they just become a little barking dog all the time around you. And if they don't realize that you're going to do what you're going to do, no matter what they do, they just chip at you. They're like that little Jack Russell that bites at your heels. It's never going to kill you, but they just annoy you.
So, be the biggest dog in the place and be going about your business, do it the right way. And the small dogs that maybe are not doing it the right way, they're nipping at your feet, you run them down.
Yeah, the greatest people in the Bible that people want to talk about religion and church and Christianity, the greatest conquerors and the greatest kings in the Bible were powerful. It's that controlling your power is the greatest part of they were powerful. The greatest people in the Bible that God put in place, they're talked about. Their names are in the books of the Bible. Those great people were powerful. And The biggest differentiator from them to everyone else was they controlled their power. Being powerful is never the problem. Being a dangerous person is never the problem. It's controlling the danger and controlling the power is where people go off in life and make big mistakes.
$400 million projects, we've mentioned that a lot today. Where does it end? Where do you go next? What are the next goals? Do you ever get to a point where you say, oh my gosh, where do I go now? You said you have 3 or 4 really interesting projects going on right now that you're looking at, all of which are big projects. So how do you keep on making a new goal all the time? And if so, how do you think about the goal setting process? What's in that?
Well, what we want to do is we don't want to get bored doing things that make it successful. And the biggest problem that Jeff and I face being younger and being successful and getting older now is that there's a lot of shiny objects around us. And those shiny objects come in the form of businesses, real estate, projects, opportunities, partnerships that we could take advantage of, proceed with, and they pull you off from your goal. The goal is continuing in real estate projects, not losing focus that these big projects that we work on, that in itself is a noble business, career, lifelong commitment to being great in development. We don't have to do all these other things that get put in front of us. And that discipline to stick to where we're good at and to live inside that world for a long period of time is a differentiator from us to other people in the world. That ability to be able to stick to doing the same thing that makes you successful for a long period of time gives you the greatest ability to be able to be ultra successful when you're later in life.
You bought a country club. You're building all these things, and all of a sudden you bought a country club. Now you're building on that country club as well. But talk a little bit about that, what you've learned from that whole situation, because that was something entirely different in a sense, even though it has a part of what you do, which is build and construct. But what's it been like owning the country club, and what have you learned from that?
So one thing that I wasn't expecting to own a country club, one thing that really taught me owning the country club now is that there's a lot of niches, there's a lot of cliques, a lot of groups inside of those country clubs.
There are, yeah.
And they cause a lot of problems. But the country club that we have bought and that we're growing and we want to continue to grow, we want it to be unique. And the thing that I've learned over the last several years is every country club, every business, every gang, they have, I call it a vibe. They have a vibe that rides with them. They have a certain customer, they have a certain brand, they have a certain employee, they have a certain member, they have a certain group that aligns with them. And then they have unique experiences that basically what we're creating that only align with the people that are part of our club. And what we want to do with our club is we want to give such unique experiences over the next several years that you can't go anywhere else. There's literally not another place you can go that you can have the experiences of our club. The service, the golf course, the amenities, the events, things that we do inside of those events and those amenities and those things that nobody else does, that's what Regions Glen is going to be known about in 4 or 5 years. Is that if you want to have an elite experience and you want to have a fun experience and you want to have a family atmosphere that's fun and exciting, you're going to want to be at Regions Glen. And the first year that we bought Regions Glen, I never would have thought that I would be so excited about that in creating that lifestyle. And that's probably the best word is there's a lifestyle that goes along with the certain type of club, gang, business that you're part of. The lifestyle that we want to create and that vibe in Regions Glen is going to be unique to nobody else will have it. And I told Jeff this last week, I said, we don't know how great Regions Glen actually is, having the country club. It's 2 owners, it's Jeff and I. We can do whatever we want to do with the golf course. We can have any vibe. We can have any membership. We can do anything. We can have the best. We can have the best food. We can have the most expensive food. We can have the cheapest food. We can do anything we want to do. It's a whole open world on that golf course. And there's not very many golf courses like that left in the United States. Most are owned by country clubs that have 50 members, 100 members, 500 members. Most are owned by large corporations that have a certain way they run them and they drive them into the ground. They get the highest profit they can out of them. But there's very few that are owned by individuals and small groups of people that can actually give you an experience that you can't get anywhere else.
So you look at that and you've learned about providing an experience. You've learned about, coming up with the big projects. We've talked about that today. So kind of to wrap everything up, we've talked about talking the talk and walking the walk. You've talked about walking the walk the whole time. So we started out with you're going to pray every day, and now we're up here where, you're doing $400 million and more projects. You got a lot going on at any one time. What would you tell people that are sitting out there right now who say, okay, John, I think I'm hearing you, but just give me a little capsule on what I need to do to move in that direction, and knowing that there's a lot of work in there, but kind of summarize for me, just tell me where John Inch would go right now to start something big. I want to have that $400 million project someday. How do I get there?
Well, I think you have to start off day one is you have to be grounded and know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, that's the biggest problem with the fakes in the world is they don't know who they are. If you know who you are, it's really easy to tell somebody else who you are. It's really easy to tell somebody else how to do what you're doing is if you know who you are. And personally, myself, when you're grounded and you know who you are, and you're able to then sit down with someone, and in 10 minutes, they can say, I can trust that person. Yeah. If you have that ability, you can kind of determine where you want to go in life. There's nothing that can stop you from going anywhere. But when you don't know who you are, and you're constantly struggling to find who you are, and you're constantly trying to recreate yourself and change yourself and move yourself into who you are, just be who you are. And if who you are is, I want to coach my kids' soccer team 3 nights a week, I want to go to vacation 4 times a year, I want to be in every fantasy football league, I want to do everything I do and have fun, work a good life, there's nothing wrong with that. That's knowing who you are, and it's living a good life. If you have credible ambition and you want to do big things, know who you are. Know that you can handle the stress. Know that you can handle the problems. Know you can handle all the things that are going to punch you in the face every day, knowing that. And if you're not that person, be happy with the person that you're not, or that you are, and not that you're not. And stealing your happiness from trying to be like somebody who's not you is like the worst. And Charlie Munger says this with Warren Buffett all the time. He says that the greatest detraction of happiness is envy. Being envious of someone else is the greatest detraction of happiness. And that's something that people really don't take into consideration when they constantly want to be like somebody else, or they're constantly not happy where they're at. It's because they actually don't know who they are. And being grounded is probably the greatest gift that God has given me through my life, is that I know who I am, where I'm at. I know who I'm not. I know that I'm not 6'9" offensive lineman for the Miami Dolphins. Maybe that I wish I could be, or maybe that I'm the quarterback that for the New England Patriots that I wish I could be. I'm not any of those people. I'm Johnny Inch. I like construction. I like building. I like creating. That's who I am. And it might make me great. It might not make me great, but I love doing it every day.
You didn't get to be that Division I athlete, but you get to play the game every day on a level that maybe they'd like to play that game. And that's a pretty cool thing.
It is.
Good hanging with you, man. Really appreciate it.